If we need to expand our vision, we can bring energy up into the brow and see a wider vision than we do in our ordinary life. It's like getting out of the cage.
Keep watching to learn more.
Book 3 in the new Thinking Aloud dialogue series is UFOs and UAP, Are We Really Alone? Now available on Amazon.
New Thinking Aloud is presented by the California Institute for Human Science, a fully accredited university offering distant learning graduate degrees that focus on mind, body, and spirit. The topics that we cover here. We are particularly excited to announce new degrees emphasizing parapsychology and the paranormal. Visit their website at cihs.edu. You can now download all 8 copies of the New Thinking Aloud magazine for free, or order beautiful printed copies. Go to newthinkingaloud.org.
Thinking Aloud. Conversations on the leading edge of knowledge and discovery with psychologist Jeffrey Mishlove. Thinking Aloud. Conversations on the leading edge of knowledge and discovery with psychologist Jeffrey Mishlove.
Hello and welcome. My guest this evening is Dr. Gay Gaer Luce, a former psychologist, author of such books as Body Time and Your Second Life, a former consultant to the National Institute of Mental Health and the President's Scientific Advisory Committee, and currently the founder and director of a modern-day mystery school called Nine Gates in the tradition of the ancient mystery schools of cultures such as Greece and Egypt. Welcome, Gay.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
I wonder if you can tell me what it was that led you to found and create in this day and age a mystery school.
Well, I think I'm going to ask you a question in answer to yours.
All right.
Do you have a dollar bill on you?
Yes, I do.
I have to be paid for my answers. If you get it out, I think I could explain to you what prompted me. Because you're going to see, any of you in the audience who have a dollar bill, please get it out and take a look at it. Take a look at the back of it.
This is the back?
What do you see right there?
That's the eye over the triangle.
Yeah,
right.
The Eye of Horus over the Great Pyramid.
The inverse of the seal of the United States of America.
Right.
And then it says underneath, Novus Ordo Secularum.
Right. Well, even in the most secular order of our lives, the basis of our country comes from an esoteric root. All of the people who founded the country, practically without exception, were Freemasons. And the Freemasons were the inheritors of a long tradition that goes back to Egypt. Egypt itself was probably the inheritor of a long tradition that may go back to Atlantis. And so the people who were writing the Constitution, the people who were foremost in the creation of modern civilizations, let's say, were trained esoterically. Our feet are very firmly planted in the clouds. This is our background. And only now, it's, I think, very recent that modern societies don't understand that the greater reality, that the reality of the mystics is the energy and the foundation on which we exist.
You know, my father was a Freemason and a Shriner, and I'm sure he never even heard the word esoteric. So it's kind of lost in that tradition today. But what was it that prompted you to do this at this time, Gay?
It's been a long path for me. Progressively, I've grown farther and farther away from writing about science
Yeah.
and closer and closer to esoteric sciences.
Mm-hmm.
And I started working with Tarthang Tulku here in Berkeley in the Bay
Tibetan
Area.
Lama.
Tibetan Lama.
Mm-hmm.
And was introduced to a psychology that none of my psychology texts in college could teach me. That is, a psychology that could transform me.
Mm-hmm.
And which we are now beginning to use. Body work and all kinds of breathing exercises. They knew things about how we're put together so that we can be our largest self rather than our smallest self.
Mm-hmm.
So that we can tap into the many, many dimensions of our mind that we don't ordinarily use.
You were a teacher of the, is it called Kumnai relaxation?
Yes.
In the Tibetan Center at Berkeley for some time.
Yes, and I studied with other people like Brujoy and Richard Moss and
Mm-hmm.
Jack Schwartz. People who had another way of using themselves than the way I'd learned when I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I thought that this little body, I had experiences that told me that all the things I had learned about reality in the material world were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I hadn't had a training to show me how to use it, to use the energies of which I'm made up. We all know that we're made of atoms.
Yeah.
We don't deny that. So what are we made of? We're made of space, charge, and something that we can't quite describe, so we call it spirit. That's really what we're made up of. If we can see with eyes that are high enough vibration, we would look through each other and see matrices of color. And some people actually do see that way.
Mm-hmm.
So this is our reality. That means that we're an instrument that can play many different tunes, not just the one we play every day. And I'd like to play more of them.
And so you, through your exposure with various teachers, developed this realization of all of these other dimensions of reality, and at some point decided that it was time to create a new synthesis, would you say?
Yes, it's a synthesis that's been predicted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for our time, Alice Bailey, who was one of our great mystics,
Yes.
predicted this some time ago, that around this part of our century, the ancient mystery traditions would yield their knowledge and their tools to masses of people, instead of being just for the select few. A part of this stream for me was to work with Jean Houston, a very close friend, and to create a mystery school with her, out of her work and mine combined.
Jean Houston, for our viewers who
Yes.
may not know, is the founder of the Institute for Mind Research.
And also for the New York Mystery School.
I see.
which she
Yes, she's
runs.
based in New York and
Yeah.
does seminars all over the country. Extremely talented person who you've worked with closely for a long time now, haven't you?
Yeah. And she has a mystery school ongoing there.
Uh-huh.
And we were going to do one together on the West Coast, and she decided not to come out here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized that my style is a bit different than hers.
Yes.
And that I would simply do it my way.
Uh-huh. So in other words, you founded the mystery school almost by accident when Jean decided not to?
I had decided that it was really my life work, that it pulled together all the things that I had been doing in the past.
Your scientific and your esoteric background combined
And
for you.
yeah, and the various kinds of esoteric background. In other words, in this program, which takes 9 months, and people meet for a weekend, a month, over this period. Each month, we work on a different energy center in the body, and a different tradition.
Is that why it's called the 9 gates?
Right.
Uh-huh.
9 chakras, which are 9 different energy ways to get to a state of consciousness, which is a very unitive consciousness.
And when you say 9 chakras, for our viewers who may not know, can I presume that you're talking about, in effect, 9 organs of subtle or psychic sensitivity that are normally not awakened in most people?
I think they are unnoticed in most people,
yes.
even if they're awakened.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes they're interpreted as being psychotic or ill, illness, symptoms, and so forth. We experience these awakened energies very differently depending on who we are and how our bodies are at the time. And they can carry us into knowledge. I mean, everybody's heard of the kind of knowledge that some people have of future events, for example, or
Precognition.
or perhaps clairvoyance and telepathic understanding. I know people who could sit here and tell you your life story without you ever saying a word to them. Well, these people are people who have developed this faculty, but this is the faculty of everybody. We all actually use these intuitions. We all actually have moments when we have precognition. And it's as though we don't know how to turn the dial to quite the right clear channel, which is what some of these people do.
In other words, you might say that our instrument, our body, our mind, has many more wavelengths or ranges of expression and sensitivity than we're normally aware of. And the purpose of a training program such as your mystery school then is to teach the being inside of the instrument how to fully use the instrument.
That's right. And the only way to teach it is through experience, because there are no words for most of these things. We can sit here and talk about it till doomsday, but that won't change us until we actually start doing something very pronounced inside ourselves that has nothing to do with words.
Is it sort of, would the analogy be like training somebody to wiggle their ears?
Well, let's see. I mean, let's train someone right now to do something. If those of you who are watching would take off your shoes, which I'm doing at this moment, and
I'll do it too.
All right. And put your feet flat on the floor and pay full attention to your feet. I think you're going to notice some sensations that you don't ordinarily notice when you're walking around. Now,
it's as if we have sensitivity normally in our feet that goes unnoticed.
Absolutely.
Like antenna?
That's right. They are like vast antennae. And when your feet are on the ground, you'll notice that maybe some parts of them are easier to feel than others. Do you feel a little buzzing or tingling or maybe
I
pulsation?
always feel tingling in my feet.
We know that people who go barefoot have this tremendous ability to walk anywhere without looking, without damaging themselves, and so on. They're really feeling. Their feet are very sensitive organs of feeling. And what I'm feeling now is a kind of buzzing, especially in the arch. Just pay attention to the arch for a moment. And what I can feel, and if you pay attention, you'll realize that the different parts of the foot are tingling at different rates. Can you feel that a little bit?
Yeah.
All right. Well, these different rates are actually messages that are coming to us from the rhythms of the earth itself. Doesn't matter how high up you are, in what kind of an apartment building or office building. These energies are some of them energies that come through the earth from outer space. And
like neutrinos?
Like neutrinos. And these tides of neutrinos come in a rhythm that is so regular that our physiology is founded on it. For example, our alpha rhythm, the brainwave rhythm, is very close to a cosmic tidal rhythm that comes through the earth and entrains us as human beings in the pattern of the stars.
Well, this is extraordinary, but are the feet more sensitive than other parts of the body?
No, we just don't pay attention to them very much. We clothe them in shoes and shut them off from the information. Now, that information is coming from outer space and from the earth. It's coming up through nerves to every organ in our body. Means that we are being informed of what's going on in the earth, right under our feet, and in space. But we're not paying attention to it. We don't let this information register. That's true of all the rest of our bodies, too. And the knees, we don't think of the knees as much but a bridge, but the knees are a very pronounced energy center.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You mentioned before the program that there were chakras in the knees.
Right.
Chakras is a yogic term.
Meaning a wheel, because if you're highly tuned, and some people can look, and if they were looking at me now, what they'd see is they'd see a wheel of light with colors in this area, this area, which is the solar plexus, this area of the heart. Then they'd see another spot of color up here over the thymus, in the heart, the throat, the brow. here.
It's
and then on
possible
up.
that viewers who are clairvoyant might even see that on their TV screen.
Possibly, yeah. That would be exciting.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, that's great. I hope someone's seeing that. But anyway, if you're sitting at home and you're just paying attention to your feet, and you start moving your attention from one foot to the other, and including the toes and so on, you're going to begin to notice that you have a very highly developed antenna. It's like an ear to the ground, your feet. And the same thing is true of the hands. Healers use their hands. It's also possible to heal with the feet. And many of you who are in fine arts may remember that in the Middle Ages, the saints were sometimes depicted with an eye in the sole of the foot. That eye shape is a chakra. It sort of shows you where the energy is coming out.
And I would imagine many people are familiar with the notion of reflexology, that the whole body is reflected in the foot.
Right.
So it's these kinds of hidden mechanisms of the body that you're working on developing in the mystery school.
Yeah, and as we're kind of like harmonicas or flutes, I think. As you work your way up, we go up in the spectrum of vibration. So the rate of vibration is faster. The faster it is, the more information there is. It's like taking an elevator up from the first story of a building. Your perspective when you're down on the first floor is you can just see the doorman and the cars around you and so on. But supposing you take one of these outdoor elevators that goes up very high, and now progressively go up higher, and then you see the block, and then you see the parade that's coming down on the next block, and pretty soon you're seeing several blocks of the city. Your view expands as you go up in the vibrational range.
And up in the body, is that what you're saying?
Yes, the body is a metaphor or a mandala, and by paying attention to these energies through the body, we shift our own perspective.
And in your program, then, do you sort of start out with the feet, and then in each of the 9 months, you work your way up to the top like that?
Well, it's not quite as simple as that. We do start with the feet, and because there are 50 people in the program, we're able to amplify the signal by, I don't know how many what the exponential is, but it's more than 50 times what any of us can generate, so nobody misses the signal. In other words, we do a lot of energy work, but apropos of the energy work, we usually have an invited guest. For example, at the third chakra, we began to work with a Navajo shaman who taught us something about third chakra cleansing through a ceremony.
That's in the solar plexus area?
It's up here in the, right under
diaphragm?
The diaphragm, yeah. And for one of our sessions in the heart chakra, we did a Sufi zikra. The Sufis being a very eclectic Near Eastern group, highly influenced by Mohammedanism, but really starting long before that. And one of the things in the zikr is that they use all of the body to produce a change in consciousness. And they do this kind of a motion with the head in the zikr.
It's sort of a dance, like a dance and a prayer combined.
A prayer and a dance, and bowing. And then finally, when people are extremely high in their consciousness, they will spontaneously get up and begin to turn like the whirling dervishes. So what we see there is a psychotechnology, a spiritual technology, knowing how to make movements and sounds and to feel things so that we make a vast shift in consciousness. And the shift is so great that the difference between that and our ordinary lives is amazing when we come back to them. We come back with a whole new perspective. And it's like a bridge to God. And instead of talking about it, we do it. So
and you do it for many different cultures, so it's not as if you are training people in one tradition or one school or to follow a dogma.
And my hope is that each person will listen and decide what gate is for him or her, what are the appropriate gates, and that in this more abstract energy work that we do, that people could learn how to play the right note in their lives at the right time. In other words, there are times to be very firmly in the solar plexus in power and emotion and will.
Much of the martial arts tradition comes from this part of the body,
right,
doesn't it?
In the lower part, which is really centered in the body.
Mm-hmm.
But there are times when you want to shift into the heart center and expand beyond the social rules and all the kind of conditioned things that we do and feelings that we have.
What I think you seem to be saying is that as we go about our normal day-to-day lives outside of an esoteric training or a mystery school, our consciousness may be focused in on one or another of these various chakras or levels of consciousness, and that would affect our attitudes, our whole outlook, our orientation, our basic paradigm to what we do. And it would be, I suppose, unfortunate if we're not able to shift up and down or back and forth as circumstances might be appropriate.
Yeah, I think if more of us could learn how to shift into some of the upper registers at the appropriate moments, then we ourselves would change the situation for other people, because we're always broadcasting. If our dominant energy is down here, we're broadcasting it.
Sort of male macho power.
Or competition perhaps, or something like that. And down here it might be sexuality and so on. And there's a place for all these. But as we go around, we are like a broadcast, and we're broadcasting, obviously, not just one chakra at a time, but predominant. Our habit is to stay in these lower chakras. So it may take more thought, but for example, when someone's sick, if you go into a hospital room full of anxiety and coming from the third chakra, the solar plexus, you can only transmit your anxiety. Last year, after I had an automobile accident and I was lying in bed, I could tell as people approached the room what state they were in, because I was sensitized and I knew what they were thinking. And the people who came in and were centered in the heart or in the chest were soothing to me, whereas the people who were weeping and upset about the state I was in actually upset me more.
Well, is there an ideal state, a sort of a balance or flowing between all the chakras? Is that?
I think that's what it is. You just said it. It's a balance, and it's a knowledge about what the situation is and how deliberately to change one's own energy. In other words, we can fit the situation. We don't have to be victims of it. If we're in a situation, for example, where we need expression, we can bring energy through the throat. If we need to expand our vision, we can bring energy up into the brow and see a wider vision than we do in our ordinary life. It's like getting out of the cage.
If we were to try and optimize the experience of creating a television program live on tape, so to speak, as we are now, with people who are listening at a future time, but it will be real time. It'll be the now moment for people who are with us at this moment, and we're trying to really communicate fully to them about these levels and these openings that we're discussing, these gates. Would there be do you have a suggestion for that? I mean, is there an attunement to a sort that might be optimal for this sort of situation?
Yeah, let's do a couple of different sounds.
All right.
Let's do. And now let's do another sound.
Would you suggest that people who are viewing do this while we're doing it?
Sure, and see where it hits you. See where in the body you begin to feel that sound.
It might resonate across time with the sound we're creating.
Absolutely.
Across time and space.
Let's do another one. Let's do an ah.
All right.
Well, by opening the throat and allowing the sound to come out, different sounds have different vibrational rates. So for each person doing this, what I would say is the best thing is to see what your tone is.
Each person has a certain, like a tuning fork.
Yes, you're like a tuning fork, so that if you're sitting up straight with your spine straight in the chair, when you make a sound, you're going to feel it reverberating in a certain place. Let's go down to oh. you feel that sort of on the bottom of your spine, down in here?
Right in this
In
area.
the pelvis area, yeah.
And I actually have an impulse that to make these sounds to kind of open my body up like that. That might be something.
Well, definitely. If we were, I mean, one of the things that we are doing in the mystery school is we work with ritual, with breathing, with sound, with all kinds of movement. And it's a phenomenon that I think you've experienced a lot in your life, and I'm sure that all the people who are listening to us have. But we don't pay much attention to it unless our attention is called to be deliberate about it. Like, what chakra am I talking from right now? And can I change? If I change my attention, what is the difference that you feel?
Now that's very interesting. I can feel you coming right from your heart.
But I was starting out at my head.
Uh-huh.
And then I moved down into my heart. You're right.
And you mentioned earlier something I had never heard before, that there are 2 heart chakras. In fact, you even said 7 when you get into it.
Well, if you put your hand right across the center of your chest, and you listen with your hand as though there's nothing in the world but this palm of this hand as an ear to listen to what's going on. Now, I think closing your eyes is a good idea too, because you may be a person who senses through color, or you might happen to be someone who hears sounds. As you do this, you're going to feel something under your hand. And when you get good at that, at feeling that under your hand,
very subtle.
It's subtle, but there's something there, isn't there? It's as though you're passing your hand through something.
I feel my pulse.
Yeah, there's a pulse. Now, when you bring your hand up here and you do the same thing,
much different.
It's very different, isn't it? Now, these are things which people who do healing, for example, know very much, because the energies that come out of the palm can reflect the energies of the heart, can be transmitting them. But the energies that come out of each one of the fingers are different.
You know, they never taught me that in grade school. I went through 10 years of college. They didn't teach me that either.
Well, you know, they don't teach us much about taking care of ourselves in a real sense. I mean, it's all social. Most of our teaching is social.
Well, you know, I'm sure that at this point, some of our viewers who have been hearing about this work would probably like to contact you at your mystery school or get more information. And I wonder if we can give them a phone number that they could contact.
Sure. I'm in the 415 area code, and my number is 927-1677.
927-1677, and that's called the 9 Gates Mystery School. 9 gates because
we're working with 9 of these energy centers, which are gates to different consciousness, and we're also working with 9 different traditions. You know, they were very different. The Greek, the Egyptian, some of the different American Indian. They were related, but they were different in the way they expressed themselves. And so, for example, in an African tradition, you might use a pelvic rhythm to do a trance dance to come into unitive consciousness. Whereas in Buddhism, you might focus on an image at the brow.
But would you say that all of these traditions are ultimately leading to the same deep reality? They all understand it, and that there's a way of translating that if a Tibetan Lama were here with a Navajo chief and they could speak about their deepest understanding of reality, they would understand each other.
Absolutely.
Well, Gay, it's been a real pleasure having you share this knowledge and wisdom with us this evening. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this.
Oh, thank you. I just wish we could go on for an hour and do it. Get up and do some of the practices.
Well, if we were to leave people with something real quick,
all right,
in 5 seconds, what would you do?
I would say, pay attention to the soles of your feet. Then move your attention and the palms of your hands to your knees. Then move your attention to the place where you're sitting, the base of your spine. Then up into the pelvic bowl. Then up into the solar plexus, to the middle of the chest, the high part of the chest, the throat, the brow, between the brows.
Open them all up, huh?
And open up.
Thank you, and thank you very much for being with us.
Book 3 in the new Thinking Aloud dialogue series is UFOs and UAP, Are We Really Alone? Now available on Amazon.
New Thinking Aloud is presented by the California Institute for Human Science, a fully accredited university offering distant learning graduate degrees that focus on mind, body, and spirit. The topics that we cover here. We are particularly excited to announce new degrees emphasizing parapsychology and the paranormal. Visit their website at cihs.edu. You can now download all 8 copies of the New Thinking Aloud magazine for free or order beautiful printed copies. Go to newthinkingaloud.org.